Good morning. You're watching QTV this morning. We are back on another edition of This Morning in our studios. And of course, I'm joined by Julde Njai, my colleague. Julde, good morning.
Good morning, Valde.
How are you doing?
I am fine. Good to see you and, of course, have you again.
Yes, yes. I was exhausted yesterday. So, I mean, I think it's more of the Valentine program that we had. You know, we have to stretch almost a full day, you know, and before you get home it was 2 a.m. So I think, you know, those are the things that made me very, I mean,
labor of love.
Exactly, absolutely, yes. And how are you, Julde?
I am fine, Alhamdulillah. Good morning to you, and of course, good morning to Mr. Mboj, and to our viewers from wherever they are watching us from. We are back to yet another edition of This Morning program. Fu waay munti nekk rek si biir réew mi ak si bitim réew ñu leen naa jaajëfal bu baax a baax di leen dalalaat fii sa beneen edition bu leen dem fenn.
Exactly, I mean di leen dalalaat, and we have our newspaper review guest in the studio with us already, Mr. Momodou Mboj. Naka sa suba?
Alhamdulillah, nice.
Naka yëngu yi?
Nga jëm fu mu nekk ba blood bi calm na down. The speed bi mu daan dawee. It calm down. So man ci slow lane bi, unfortunately. Or maybe fortunately. The fast lane boy.
Time, you know, ku nekk stage la rek. Ku nekk am na time boy ñëw, you know, am na yoo xam ne sax duñ la safaat. You know, dang ne mun a aga to a stage bi nga xam ne sax buuxante gi ak xëccoo gi loolu da nga foog ne sax waste of time.
Exactly.
Wow. Wow, exactly. So that's it. Yes, on our program today, we'll be looking at the African proverb as usual. And then we'll talk about the $15 million worth of drugs seized by the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency. They'll be here in the studio with us. And we'll also talk to Isatou Ceesay, you know, a celebrated environmentalist and, of course, an author. Then we'll also have Miranda Paul, award-winning American author. We'll be looking at Gambian Book Tour for children's book, One Plastic Bag. I think they'll be in the studio to clarify that, Julde. You know, when I saw one plastic bag, I was like, I mean, it is a bit, I mean, one plastic bag, what does it tell?
Well, I'm sure they have their reasons for naming it that. I don't know. When you're walking down the street, you see a plastic bag, pick it up, put it in the bin. Everybody just wants out 2 million. We'll do a good job there.
The journey of 1,000 miles begin with one step. Yeah, so we'll be looking at independence celebration as well. You know, as you know, today is the 16th, the 17th, and we have a day to go before independence. So I know it's important for us to look at the preparations, and we'll be having our reporter somewhere at the Makati Square in Banjul, where he will be updating us the preparations and how far have we gone, you know. But it's important. We'll talk about the independence here, Mr. Mboj. I mean, it's important for us to, I think this is 57 or 58 rather.
Yeah.
So you can see how far have we gone as a country? What have we achieved? I mean, from independent till date. It's important for us to talk about that as well.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Yes, and sort of new questions are creeping in because we've got the perspective of 58 years. Then sort of one now reflects the expectations we had. Was it rational? Were we justified in the expectations given the scale of the problem? Did we truly have the right diagnostics? Did we truly understand ourselves? So for me, all of these questions are coming back now. So maybe we can reimagine independence in the future. Maybe we need to do a bit more of diagnosis.
Exactly, a bit more of diagnosis, and on the click segment we'll be joined by Churchill Balde, and our guest in the studio will be Jalimati Kanute. And of course that's the running order for you. Now we'll look at the African proverb, Julde.
Our African proverb this morning is, if your mouth is in someone else's kitchen, it cannot get its independence. If your mouth is in someone else's kitchen, it cannot get its independence. Balde. That's our African proverb.
if at all the mouth gets independent, you know, without me giving the mouth the independent, then it's leaving my kitchen, isn't it?
Get your own kitchen.
Get my own. But Mr. Mboj, to be very honest, I mean, it is a slow process. I mean, it is a gradual process for you to get your kitchen. I mean, even the person with the kitchen did not just wake up one day and get his or her own kitchen. He have to eat from other people's bowls before he gets to have his own bowl. What do you think?
Yes, when I'm born, my parents, my whoever will be giving me all sorts of things, but again, they also tell me what to do. Essentially, this is what it is. They also tell me what to do. You can't do this, you can't do that. They're feeding you. As grown-ups, really, it is the same thing. If I keep on giving you money or giving you food or whatever, or and the like, sooner or later, you're going to start dancing to my tune.
Exactly.
You know, who pays the piper determines the tune. There's a proverb, another one to that effect. It's just a reality. Get your own kitchen. Yes, it is difficult, but that must be the aim. Get your own kitchen, feed yourself, earn your keep. If you want to be independent and have integrity and, you know, certain graces, as it were, of character, you need your independence as individuals and as a nation.
Exactly, Julia. What do you think?
Yeah, I think he's right. I will connect it to Gambia at 58. How independent are we if we are, you know, getting our mouth is in someone else's kitchen? How independent are we after 58 years of independence? So I think that point is very important. Are we independent? Do we have our own kitchen right now as a country? Or are we putting our mouth in someone else's kitchen? Of course, they will determine what happens in the country. They will run this country indirectly. And now directly, you know, surprisingly, they are running it directly because, I mean, they get to tell you these are the conditions attached and you will have to abide by the conditions without, you know, you don't have a choice. So we have to reflect, we have to think. I think this proverb is very, very important. It came at the right time for the fact that Gambia, we are approaching our 58 years of independence, you know, and still now our mouth is somewhere. Is it in China? Is it in Europe? You know, is it in America? Where is it? Or is it in the Gambia? So these are the questions that are worth asking, and we should really critically look at things and analyze it. If we really want to be fully independent, we should have our own kitchen, put our mouths in our own kitchen, and then, you know, our destiny is our...
Well, it is good that, I mean, you came over that Gambia, we are putting our mouth in different kitchens. I mean, then it means we are finished. I mean, even one kitchen would have been difficult than, you know, putting your mouth in different kitchens. That should be very, very difficult.
No, I think let's adjust our lens here and sort of put our situation in a historical context. 58 years is not really that long. Even in an individual's life, it's not long, let alone a nation's life. Independence is a process. You know what I mean? The ceremony that we had on the 18th of February 1965, that was just a first step. Remember, you want to build a ladder, you want to go up, you want to improve. Independence, that was the first rung on a ladder. So that was just the beginning. What we're going through now is a phase. We will come out of this phase. I mean, after all, the deals that we had at independence, atrocious, awful. It was always going to be extremely difficult. I think we misjudged that bit. All this corruption you're seeing and all the rest of it, these are all symptoms, legacies of what we left, the colonial legacy. It will linger. Just as we're seeing with Yahya Jammeh's period, it's still lingering on the Barrow. This is really what happens.
You mean the effect?
It will linger. It takes time maybe to wash
these effects.
Maybe it's even a generational game, you know. So let us be realistic and not be too pessimistic and even be morose about these things. No, when you put it in historical context, it takes a long time to form a nation. a nation where you have so many
But
different languages.
Mr. Mboj, I think it also depends on the, let's now try to broaden this conversation. I think it talks about, I think we need to connect the newspaper review here now. We just continue. This would be the newspaper review as we are approaching independence. So now, you know, there is something that surprised me. When you look at the colonization in Africa, when you look at all the Anglophone and the Francophone,
and Lusophone,
the way they colonized those countries, like the Francophone and the Anglophone, is totally different. Even if you go to Francophone countries, when you look at their setups, when you look at their the way they run and the way they govern, I mean, their institutions is totally different. I think the assimilation that the French use when it comes to the Francophone countries, I think it really works for them. You know, it's different from the way we were colonized. It's like, for them, they've been colonized, but at least they've left something for them to start with. But for us, it's totally different.
Mr. Balde, what they call the mission to civilize, they are all the same, merely stylistic differences. Assimilation, but still they tell you, hell, your culture doesn't mean anything here. You have to come and join my culture. That's what assimilation really means. Yeah. Indirect rule. We don't really want to get too near. Let's use this sort of intermediate bodies, chiefs, and all sorts of institutions were created trying to run through things. All the same ends. Exploitative. The same, really, but stylistic differences. You know, the French and the English, boy, they've got so many jokes between them. So that's all it was. Hey, look, let's forget about that. Now we know after 58 years that this is really a very difficult thing. Exactly. And it's not about blaming leadership. The leadership, they come from us. We have to reflect culturally. That's where the base is. Without that change, we'll just be reproducing ourselves in positions of power.
Exactly.
People, they don't come from Mars. Our leaders are not from Mars or Jupiter. They're from us. They are us. Upon me, give me top government job today. Tomorrow I will change and become something else, and I will milk it. This is us.
Exactly.
So that reflection, we must have that critical mass in our population who are politically committed. I separate the professional, my work, from the private. You know what I mean? There are certain things that we need to do, then we can run.
You know, at some point, I think I say this. I mean, is it that we don't favor the system or the system doesn't favor us? Which is which? No, I mean, you just talked about a person. If you are put in a particular position, you milk the whole thing. I mean, is it that you are, I mean, rushing to gain something? Or is it that you are in a haste to achieve, you know, your desires? I mean, a thing that you want for yourself. I don't understand, I mean, the whole situation here, Mr. Mboj.
That's it. This is the colonial system. It is extractive. We see government as a place where you go and enrich yourself. This is really what we inherited. The colonizer here was merely to extract, you know, for a few generations. So this is, and the system they had in place was merely to extract. So the people who took over, after the colonizers left, you know, at independence, we all thought all we need is just for the colonizer to leave. Then we'll have prosperity.
Continue their mission.
You know, we'll have prosperity, we'll have development, we'll have all of that. But then afterwards, we began to realize that, ooh, the enemy is within.
We are continuing their mission.
Absolutely, we are our own enemy. Man, but how do you run away from yourself? It's a very, very difficult situation. How do you change that? So it's always going to be a long generational game, really. But that's not a problem. What is the problem is, whether do I grasp it? What is it that I can do now? Nation building is only that. So when you have leaders there, 20, 30 years, 40 years, oh, I want to complete what I started. No, you are not going to complete what you started. Leave. for somebody else to come. This is what nation building is. I'm building a huge house, all of us. All I can bring to this is just a brick. Others will bring other bricks, then it goes on. If I think that I can bring all the bricks, you're fooling yourself. So we keep on having coups because leaders misunderstand what's going on here. So it's all part of...
Well, I think the issue that we have is complex. It's even more
Thank
than...
you. It is very complex.
More than, you know, we thought. I mean, Julde, anything on that paper?
Yeah, we have this one saying, UDP Head of Communication says, Commission of Inquiry is a witch hunt. That is the Commission of Inquiry into the councils. They're saying that it's a witch hunt, and according to him, most of all the commissioners that are in the, you know, commission are, you know, NPP sympathizers or supporters. For him, this thing is a witch hunt because he believed that, you know, government has been facing with lots of corruptions in, you know, the airport. You have the Ports Authority, of course you have the parastatals, you have state enterprises. According to him, all these sectors and institutions are corrupt. Why is it that government is not really prompting into those areas but the local councils? So he is actually connecting this to the upcoming local government elections. So that's the reason why he said that it's a witch hunt.
Yes, but with us, you know, we have to be very careful. We shouldn't confuse issues. Started out with what? The councils. Going to investigate the councils. Is it justified or not? Let us stick to specifically the details here before we start pushing to whether those doing the investigations are all NPP sympathizers and the rest of it. I need to know the names and the connections. I'm a journalist. Yeah. So is it justified for government to investigate? Well, we've been following the National Audit Report. We've been following the select committees in the National Assembly, and they've all said damning things against the councils. You know, the mismanagement, no paper trail, as it were, or investigations come to a dead end because there's no data and stuff like that. So should we investigate that or not? So let's stick to the details.
Exactly.
How many people will say no? You know, any rational person, everybody who's interested in accountability, how many will say no? So I am not sure what the person is trying to say there. Yes? So we move on. So the person there claims that those doing the investigations, you know, the commissioners, is it called, what is it called?
They are NPP sympathizers and
I need more details. Give me the names and give me the connections with the NPP. I haven't seen the details. I need more details for this one to stick. And what else does this person say?
Well, according to him, you know, this is the main reason for this is the upcoming local government election.
Well, the local government election is just around the corner. That much we know, but I'm not sure what this one has to do with that. I do not know. I do not know about any of these things. This is all part of the campaign, isn't it, really? So now the campaign has begun with, you know, for the local government elections. And with us journalists, we should be very careful what is an assertion and what is evidence. As it were, we should be very careful how we analyze this.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So and here again, the audit report reveals irregularities in environments of over $4 billion.
Environments? Who on earth uses these words these days? Environments? Do you know the word by that?
Well, I mean, I think it's talking about irregularities. It's talking about things. It's talking
abnormalities.
About exactly.
Oh, this journalist! If I was the editor, I would have struck that one off. I think environment means.
And it's your paper. It's your own newspaper.
I'm talking about the particular journalist. I think it means sort of the resources that you transfer. You can transfer about from one ministry to another, or one program to another. After the budget is done. So within the ministries, I think you can do things like that. What was allocated to you, maybe you give it to another ministry or another program and stuff like that. So amounting to
$4 billion. That's a huge amount of money.
Oh, we've been hearing stuff like that, and that is really what our problem is. really, our president, I have to say this, our president must realize that our chief difficulty is about this organizational, as it were, stringency, this organizational nous, they call it acumen. Really, otherwise, your national development plan, your resources, and everything would be wasted. It all starts with the human being, the personnel. We are the most important thing before anything else. And it's all pervasive. We have to say that.
Yeah.
Exactly, we have to say that. And all right, we also have another one. Foraya is asking the death of the 70 or more children and the outcome.
Is it the
We're
AKI?
talking about the AKI, and they're here asking the outcome.
That's it. We know that the government was investigating. The National Assembly had done their investigations and recommended prosecutions and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So we'll see how we're going to do that, because the company Maiden is in India. How is that going to happen? So government's investigations, we haven't heard anything yet, any findings yet. How long would it take? We do not know. We tend to have these things. We've instituted this, but we do not know how long. Well, I haven't seen any published findings of the investigation.
Yeah, and surprisingly, was a press release that is issued from the Medicine Control Agency saying that there is another cough syrup that emerged, and they realized that it is containing chemicals in it and it's harmful. So that is cough relief, and they are warning people to really desist from it and to call back their batches. So I think this issue of AKI has not died down. You know, we were expecting that by now we would know, you know, what the investigations are, at least, you know, at what level is the government in terms with regards to the investigation. But still now we have not heard from the government, the Ministry of Health, about anything concerning the AKI incident.
And possibly, that is true, we do not have the specific information here, you know, as this investigation might reveal. But we can at least tease out, deduce certain things.
Exactly.
Well, it has made in these cough syrups, they've escaped our filters. If one has escaped, maybe two or three or a few have also done so.
Exactly.
Is it time perhaps to review, to go back and look at everything around and see what's going on, have a general review of what's been coming in.
Exactly.
To get an accurate picture well,
of,
approximation at least, perhaps not exactly accurate, but an approximation of what the picture is like out there, on the ground. What's going on? What kind of drugs are around? Have a more general review, maybe.
Yeah, makes sense. Balde?
Yes, I mean, I wanted us to talk about the CISO recently, but I know we'll be having the Drug Law Enforcement Agency here. They'll be talking about, well, that's a huge CISO, Mr. Mboj. I mean,
yeah, it's a multi-billion-dollar business. So a lot of people will take risks.
Oh, really?
Of course, because the rewards are high. Human beings are like this.
You can go the extra mile.
This is what people do. So it's up to the authorities to have the kind of safety mechanisms in place to try to catch them out.
Information Minister receives letter of rescinding Abubakar Dabo's appointment.
I think that is rescinding.
Exactly. I think we heard about his appointment saga. I mean, when he was sent an appointment, then later directives from the State House, according to what is said, that, I mean, they should, you know, forfeit that appointment again.
You are right in calling it a saga. I mean, absolutely. What should have been a simple appointment? Abubakar, he said that he had been given the appointment letter. But while there was a time they interviewed the minister, Lamin Queen Jammeh, and I think he was quoted as saying it was on hold. Then afterwards, was it the following day? Then we got the other news, the headlines, now rescinded, taken back. Yes, how come? I mean, it all looks so clumsy. Didn't you think about it sort of carefully? Wasn't it carefully thought through?
Before?
I do not know. I do not know the circumstances. It will be interesting to know. But it doesn't tell well. It doesn't inspire confidence
others,
in our leaders. I mean, when we look at the shoddy affair, I mean, it doesn't really tell well, really.
Well, I mean, as far as it's our national television here we're talking about, I think it's each and every person's business to handle it. Well, I think it's not professional at all for it to have worked that way.
Bring in somebody with experience, a breadth of mind, somebody with integrity. Occasionally, in fact, they will be covering news about the opposition. This is what maturity is, and we call it national. It is not necessarily on the side of the government. We tend to make these confusions. A lot of people who have occupied that felt that they had to side with the government. No, you side with the nation, which is a slightly different thing. The nation remains, governments come and go.
Yeah.
They're revolving. You have this revolving door of politics. So you need somebody who understands these things. Even the president, I think, will probably appreciate it, or at the least, it will be in the interest of the nation. That is really what your job is.
Most of the time, it doesn't work like that,
That's it.
especially
So we
in
need
Africa.
to evolve. We need to evolve into something else. If we want to have independence and the development and the growth that we want, you have to be a particular kind of citizen. I cannot be a citizen that is dependent. Then I want a nation that is independent.
Do you know? Do you know today?
Meaningless.
If I appoint you as head of an institution, let's talk about the media. I mean, if I am the head of like the president of a nation, and I appoint you as maybe you are the one running the national television or something, you dare not do things that I don't like. We have seen the past 22 years of former President Jammeh in our country. You dare not play anything that have to do with the opposition.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know that when you are in the position, especially when you have somebody like Jammeh, which is different from Barrow, with Jammeh possibly junglers, or the cost of saying no was just so high. Under Barrow, I'm not sure that the cost of saying no will be that high. It's not the same. And I like saying this all the time, only lawful orders are binding. Yeah, that was what we got from Nuremberg, the trials there. You put me in a position, you've given me my terms of reference. You cannot call me and tell me to abuse, to breach the law. I'll say, sir, I cannot do that. Until we can do that as citizens, until we can do that, no, I'm not going to break the law. We are never going to be independent. We're never going to have the nation.
Thank you, thank you, Mr. Mboch. I am told, I mean, we've already exhausted the time that we've been given. And now we'll connect to Alieu Ceesay. I think he's currently on the ground, looking at the independence preparation. As you know, on the 18th, we're celebrating 58, Gambia at 58, you know. So we'll talk to Alieu. Alieu, good morning. How are you? Alieu Ceesay.
Thank you very much, Ibrahim Abalde and the entire team there on our studios on Kairaba Avenue. I am here at the McCarthy Square in Banjul, where our fine men and women in uniform are rehearsing for the independence celebration on Saturday. Actually, it was at this particular venue where the Union Jack was lowered on 18 February 1965 and the Gambian flag hoisted, marking the country's independence celebration. This, I mean, is going to be the high point as far as the celebration is concerned, and because of that, we have seen our fine men and women in uniform have been rehearsing for the past couple of days, I mean, ahead of the celebration on Saturday. And then the theme for this year's celebration is Democracy, a Recipe for Peace and Development. That's the theme for this year's celebration. And here we have different heads of various security institutions are here, I mean, also witnessing, I mean, this important rehearsal. I'm seeing the Inspector General of Police, Ablaye Sanyang, is here, the Chief of Defense Staff, Yakuba Drame. Of course, I mean, other security heads, I'm seeing the head of the immigration post are all here. I mean, of course, the commander of the State Guard Battalion are all here, I mean, witnessing, I mean, this important rehearsal as far as the upcoming independence celebration is concerned, which is going to mark mark, 58 years of nationhood since the Gambia gained independence, from British rule. And on such a day, we have to pay tribute to people who led the fight, the likes of the late Sador Kairaba Jawara. Of course, not forgetting the likes of Francis Small, who were key as far as, fighting for the independence of this country from British rule, and on 18 February 1965 is concerned. So it is going to be at this particular venue where the President of the Republic, President Adama Barrow, is going to preside over the celebration, which will be followed by a parade by the fine men and women in uniform, and of course including students from across schools within the greater Banjul area. And I'm pleased to say I'm being joined here by Lamin S. Marong, who is a media officer at the Gambia Armed Forces. Lamin, thank you so much for joining us live on QTV this morning. Young men, how has the rehearsal been going since you start preparation for the independence?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Ceesay. Every year Gambia celebrates its independence anniversary, and this year, like other years, is the 50th independence anniversary of the Republic of the Gambia. So this day is a very important day, and prior to the day, when the day comes closer, there is a board set up, convened by the Chief of Defense Staff, Gambia Armed Forces, for services to come together, send some personnel to go on rehearsals to prepare for this very important day in our national calendar. So that being the case, there's a parade, people on parade, the personnel on parade here have been on rehearsal for the past 2 weeks since the board was convened. The board, when convened immediately, personnel were sent to the venue where the rehearsal is supposed to take place. That is the Fajara Barracks, usually what we used to call depot. But as many people know, the place is called depot. That's where they gather for their rehearsals. And it's been 2 weeks now they've been together. That is to synchronize their moves, marching and other things, to prepare for the day. And prior to that, we have other events that also took place, and that culminates to today's dress rehearsal. That was dress fitting rehearsals. That dress fitting rehearsals is always done to make sure that the ceremonial dresses that they put on that day fits them. So that's the dress fitting rehearsals, and that was done some days ago, 2 days ago to be precise. And today is a dress rehearsal day. Why this day today too is because they've been in rehearsal for so long, and being on rehearsal for so long, they have to come to the ground to familiarize themselves with the ground that the very event will take place. Then they'll merge information, they'll be in their formations, and the merge information in presence of the service chiefs, the Chief of Defense Staff Gambia Armed Forces. Then we have the IGP Police, the Director of Immigration, and other services, the prison services, and the fire and rescue services. They'll all be here to witness how the synchronization is done, how these people march to mark that very important day. So what we are witnessing today, here today, is that the directors and the various service chiefs are here to witness, the performance of their men that will allow them to be able to, judge their performance the very day. So that's the importance of this day, and tomorrow will be an admin day. We call it an admin day. That admin day is that you leave them to go because they use their ceremonials, their shoes, and everything. They need to go and prepare themselves, sign their shoes, iron their ceremonials, and prepare for the D-Day.
It's more like when you're preparing for Tabaski, right?
Exactly. It's like when you are preparing for a feast.
So what should we expect from these fine men and women? I know when it's independence, all attention will be on the march past. What should we expect from them this time around as well?
Like you said, Gambia, we proud ourselves with that. When it comes to marching, we are one of the best, one of the finest within the West African region and within the British colonies. We are one of the finest. If there is something very much important that we inherited from the British and the British left with us, is this marching. So tomorrow, what we expect from these people is excellent marching in a smart soldier-like manner. Their dressing will be more befitting than today because, like I said, today is a dress rehearsal. They'll be prepared tomorrow for the event proper. Shiny boots, shiny ceremonial dress, and we expect them to do the utmost best.
And as a member of the armed forces, are you impressed with what we have seen so far?
Actually, I'm impressed. What I've seen so far, really impressed. Because one thing I will tell you, the Chief of Defense Staff Gambia Armed Forces doesn't take such ceremonies lightly. He put everything into these ceremonies to make sure that these such important national occasions are well, participated by our various forces.
And someone out there will be asking, how do you identify people who take part in this parade? If you could share with us.
Okay. Is that like you see, the parade detachments, they are standing in their detachments, and each detachment is wearing a specific color. If you look at the first detachment, that is wearing green. The green is the Gambian Armed Forces, have services under the Gambian Armed Forces. You have the Gambian National Army, you have the Gambian Navy, you have the Republican National Guard. Understand? Though we have the Air Force, but that is still at the infant stage. So the green is the Gambian National Army. The male detachment is the one in front and the female detachment behind. Then you have the white. The ones in white is the Gambian Navy, male and female detachment. The ones in the red ceremonials are the RNG, Republican National Guard. From there then you have the police force. The police force you have the general duties. From the general duties then you have the PIU. And the PIU, after the PIU, you have the prison services that is wearing the cream and the, after the PIU, you have the immigration services. Wearing their normal ceremonial colors, that is the cream and the chocolate color, the brown color. Then you have the prison services. From the prison services, you have the fire and rescue service. And then you have the fire and rescue services in the deep navy blue. Then you have the customs in the black. Yeah, those are the colors that you identify them. Exactly. Then in the middle of them, where you have the flag, it's called the color party. It's Gambia Armed Forces personnel will provide this color party. It comprises of all the services under the Gambia Armed Forces, Gambia National Army, then the Navy and the RNG. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Marong, for your time. It's quite appreciated. Viewers, like I said, we're at the McCarthy Square, and this is a live coverage. It's just a day before the Gambia celebrates its 58th independence after gaining independence on 18 February 1965. As you are saying from my back, that's just a symbolic of what is going to happen here on Saturday. The person you are saying is not President Barrow, but it's just a symbolic of how the whole event here at the McCarthy Square will run. Like I said, this is a very important venue, to celebrate the independence of this country, because, like I said, it was exactly at this place where the Union Jack was lowered for the last time, and then the Gambian flag, that's the red, white, blue, white, green, was hoisted, marking this tiny West African nation of less than 3 million people, gaining independence from British rule after what wasn't a smooth journey as far as the journey to independence of this country is concerned. It wasn't a smooth journey. It really took a lot of efforts to have the Gambia been given independence. And like I said, on this day, we celebrate people who actually led the fight, the likes of the late Sadao Kairaba, Jawara, Aigaba, Jahumpa, and of course Francis Small, like I mentioned, are all people who were very key in ensuring this country gain independence. The like of Francis Small, we saw, if you go back to history, we saw how he used the press, the media to ensure Gambians gain independence. He was highlighting the plight of Gambians as to how they were being ruled by the British, sharing what was happening with the
Alieu
outside
Ceesay.
world. So it is important that we really celebrate this day. Bande, back to you on the studio on Kairaba Avenue.
Thank you very much, Alieu Ceesay, there at the McCarthy Square in Banjul, looking at independence preparation, February 18, 1965, and it will be February 18 very soon, and we are looking forward to a very successful independence celebration. But Julde, for me, the main thing that I focus on is, how far have we gone as a country? It's good to have a very beautiful parade. It's good to do a beautiful rehearsal. It's good for us to come together. But how far have we gone as a nation?
Exactly. I think 58 years.
58 years ago.
Exactly.
So it's important. Now we'll talk to the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency. And we have Usman Seidiba here with us in the studio. $15 million worth of drug was seized by the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, and 27 suspects are in custody. Good morning, sir. It's good to have you here.
Good morning. Thank you.
It's been a while. Where have you been? What happened? Were you not seizing drugs?
We have actually been seizing drugs. It depends on where the person looks at the information. I think we've even been giving our weekly updates on weekly basis. You follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and even on Facebook. We have our page called Nakomag. We regularly give the update to the public. As relating to our work, seizures take place. But you have to understand that there are two components. We have the dealers, and we have those that do not deal, that use drug. So you not necessarily publicize a lot on matters that are not with trafficking and dealing. Because as I said in our previous engagement here, the balanced approach for those that use drug is not to incarcerate, but to work on what we call prevention, treatment and care, harm reduction, and alternative
But Mr. Sediba, let's start with the image that I am seeing on TV. I mean, there are things that they are showing that look very attractive. Are those drugs as well? Are those drugs? I mean, well, we'll come back to that. Julda, we've seen, I mean, they talked about the biggest seizure. I mean, I don't know if this is the biggest seizure, because
it's one of the biggest.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, despite all the efforts that are done to mitigate the, I mean, the flow of drugs in this country, but it's like still people are venturing into it. Exactly. And most of them, when you look at it, they are youth. It's a youthful population.
Exactly.
You know.
One would ask, like, with all the security forces in place, how is it really possible? But like Mr. Mboj said, this is a multi-million or billion-dollar, you know, sector or avenue, or you know, where people have lots of money. And where there is money, you know, I mean, people can be smart. They can, you know, traffic these drugs without people having to know. And of course, this is a connection. Drug dealing is a big connection. You surprise, you know, sometimes you surprise as to where these drugs are coming from and who are involved. So it's a tricky business. It's really a business, whereas, you know, it's very, very difficult to actually get your hands off what is actually happening. But yeah, as far as the National Drug Law Enforcement are concerned, they're
at this
really
point,
doing a great job.
Let's engage Mr. Sediba. Yes, you can continue.
Very well. As I was saying, the 14 million itself is for the cannabis alone that was seized. The ecstasy that you are showing, worth more than $5 million. So cumulatively, you can talk about more than $21 million. Let us always remember that drugs remain one of the most lucrative form of illicit trade. There is no form of illicit trade that is more lucrative than it. And it's very complex. It is a persistent phenomenon that there is no single nation on earth that can boast to have totally eradicated it. This is not a phenomenon for only the Gambia. In fact, the most developed countries with all the technology advancement in various aspects are even faced with even much more complex problems than us. But coming to this particular issue that we are showing, there are two cases. One has to do with the ecstasy. Ecstasy, we know, is a very highly potent and very addictive drug. And each of those drugs that you are seeing, one tablet, especially this that comes from abroad, is $500, a single tablet. The ones that come from Mali or within the surrounding, mostly they sell them for $250 to $300 to $350, depending on that's the ecstasy.
A tablet?
Yes. They call it in the street today gao gao. It is ecstasy. And as I said, it's very highly potent. Now, 11,340 pills were seized, which is so far the single biggest in the annals of the agency. A single Nigerian was arrested. Further investigations into the matter led to the arrest of 2 other Nigerians and 3 Gambians. And presently, there are 2 other Gambians that are on the run that are suspected to be connected to this particular matter. And preliminary findings also indicate that the drugs came into the country from Holland and through the post office. But then again, as I said, this tells you about the complexities surrounding the illicit trafficking and dealing of drugs.
Through the post office.
And as we are speaking now, when we were doing this investigation, the custom office, there was another package that we were monitoring, which the custom officers also were able to arrest in Banjul, which had to do with the trafficking of the skunk, Cannabis ruralalis, that was also intercepted at the Banjul post office by the custom officers, and they've handed that over to us. We also continue with our investigation. Now, if you look at the cannabis that was seized, this is another aspect. And this was a full-fledged, large-scale cultivation that these people embarked on. And this is what we always talk about. You cannot live within that area and then say that you've not seen or are not aware that this activity is taking place. Everybody complains about the problem, looks for a scapegoat, but nobody wants to be involved. That if I report, I'm going to be seen as this. You see, we know that the Senegalese did a lot of operations within the Casamance area. And our operatives as well within West Coast are actually intensifying, their work around that end. Those who understand the illicit market will tell you that cannabis, a kilo used to go for 4,000 to 5,000, but today in the market is between 10, 11 to 12,000 because of the scarcity. But looking at the complex nature of drugs, if cannabis is scarce, and those who are addicted to this drug, because remember, when you are addicted, your system becomes tolerant. In order to avoid the withdrawal symptom, you must take a specific type of drug to continue just to feed your craving.
Exactly.
So now, when this is scarce, cannabis is not available. It means what? They will turn to another alternative. So, and then another thing that this manifests, if you do critical analysis of this is what we keep on talking about, because mostly when you talk about issues of drugs, people only talk about what? Arrest and incarcerate. You cannot arrest and incarcerate the whole population. That's why it is said, implement a balanced approach. On one side, you deal with interdiction and legal processes, which is the supply suppression. It has a lot. It has a connection to money laundering, terrorism financing, human trafficking, a lot of host of other crimes. On the demand reduction front, you have prevention, you have treatment and care, you also have alternative livelihood, because this is cultivation. And in most instances, people go into this for what? As a means of livelihood. So what do? Do you go and have to arrest every other place? No, the best practice approach regarding issues like this is, yes, we will enforce the law, but we should have programs and activities that are relating to alternative livelihood, alternative development. Because again, remember, this has a correlation to affect what? Food self-sufficiency. Because if people know that, I'll give an example. Nigeria had this complex issue. The Japanese government came in and then sponsored. They had an alternative livelihood program. But what happened is, there was no proper assessment on the supply chain. People were cultivating. Remember, they are into it because of the money. They cultivate, the market is not there. So what will they do? You come, you see a very big rice farm, but in the middle of the farm, there's a cannabis that is cultivated there. So instead of just looking at the problem, further analysis that they do, they notice and learn from these people that, yes, you've helped us, but then we do not have a market for our product. So this, I'm just bringing these things to show and highlight the complexities. This is 21 people that are arrested. And yes, 18 of them are male and 3 are female.
21 or 27?
21 plus the other case
5
that involved.
Well, I mean, I think the situation, we also have to look at it, at another angle. When we talk about maybe people involving themselves in drugs, so what are you doing as an institution to help to rehabilitate, to help these people to get a new beginning? It's not only arrest all the time, seize. And I think this is what we are just hearing all the time. The drug law enforcement is arresting, they've seized a huge amount of drug, they are disposing of a certain amount of drug. But I have never heard whereby the drug law enforcement agency is going to help these people when it comes to drugs, to help them manage themselves in such a way they won't be able to be involved in drugs anymore.
Thank you very much. I think the publicity on what is shared to the public depends on the interest that maybe journalists or media practitioners have to publicize. Even as we're speaking now, when I was making arrangement with your people, I'm the only one in the office because I have all of my team on the ground. You go to our page right now on NACOMAG, you see a sensitization that we had yesterday, advanced and upper basic and senior secondary school. There's another one at Kenaba. So as I said, because the drug demand reduction is in different folds, you have the prevention component, you have the treatment and rehabilitation component. But even if you have treatment, rehabilitation is also still key. Cure me for malaria. If you do not tell me how to prevent malaria, I'm coming in again for treatment. And one thing in drug addiction treatment is what we call relapse. It's one of the key complex challenges that experts are warning on how to manage, because there is always the possibility for people to go back into it. So then coming back to your question, I think we've done a lot on that part, because those who are engaged in this activity, you have to engage in evidence-based prevention and treatment programs. J-Talk, for example, I remember, Journalists Against Illicit Drug Trafficking and Organized Crime. We facilitated, sponsored, they set up, sponsored their program, but because of lack of support from others, today you don't hear about it because everything they have to turn to the agency. That is one. Two, we looked at the capacity gap, and this is not only us. They are telling you that within the region and even across the globe, there is a huge capacity gap when it comes to experts that offer treatment services. I can be a psychiatrist or a psychologist, but I'm not necessarily an addiction specialist. And I can even be an addiction specialist, but not necessarily a drug addiction specialist. So what did we do? We engaged the African Union and the US government, that is United States Bureau of International Narcotics and Law Enforcement Affairs, INL, sponsored a year-long capacity building training program in this country, which was a global master's program. We had representatives from the Ministry of Health, Department of Social Welfare, our own people, two reform addicts. One of them even is a media practitioner who is even doing a lot in that area, and the other one works with the youth. We had the religious leaders as well. We invited both Christian Council and Islamic Council, but only Islamic, because you have also what you call FBT, faith-based treatment. So that's, I'm bringing it on the different things we are doing. And this was publicized mostly by the papers, and I think even QTV covered the opening or the closing. But then it depends on the publicity given to it. Not stopping at that, we have been at an advanced stage with our discussion with ECOWAS to have a rehabilitation facility in this country. The engagement was stalled because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Right now, we've got the information from them that they've given, because when the engagement started, the contractor did his billing and sent the invoice to ECOWAS. But by the time he was awarded the contract, you remember the COVID, everything has changed. Price has changed. And then he said that he cannot go ahead with the contract on the previous agreed price, which ECOWAS also, remember, as an institution, has to go back. But then, looking at it from this perspective, is it only the league that will be able to have the capacity to address this problem? No. And as I always say, there is no excuse that we can sit as a nation and then sit up to today to say we do not have a specialized drug treatment and rehabilitation facility in the country. But progressively, because remember, the league is the youngest security institution. It became an autonomous body in 2005, and you don't expect everything to come overnight. So we are calling on partners. I keep on saying this. Let us complement government effort in part of our CSR activities. Or then, do we go back to the argument that CSR is only done where you believe as a gimmick for marketing? If there is no benefit in for you there, you do not go on it. But these are debate among scholars on what actually the underlying factors of CSR is. Let people complement us. Today, you want to run even a TV program, looking at the budget that we have. What is called for, if we take even three-month TV program in QTV here alone and GRTS, before 4 months, our budget is exhausted. So, but then when you engage even people on this, if the money doesn't, you will not want me to go on that bad.
Yes. So now, let's talk about what's going to happen next.
What will happen with these people, as we said, the prosecution will take place. But as I said, we are all complaining about this drug problem. And it is a truth that it's a complex problem and it's affecting our youth. But as I said, arrest alone does not solve this problem. If we actually in this country believe that this is a problem, why aren't we prioritizing our programs that we do within our communities by integrating drug awareness campaign? Why? Everybody is complaining. There is no, but then what are our interventions in our programs within our communities? We engage our partners. When we engage our partners, do we highlight these issues? So that whatever intervention programs that they are bringing in, they try to address this. Why I say this is because, as Bosch said, and I keep on saying this, drug is the most lucrative form of illicit trade. The motivation that is there, the money that is there, it will persist and it will continue. It is upon nations and upon individuals who see and value and believe that it is a problem to devise mechanism. So the way forward is we will continue with what we are able to do within our capacity. Remember, we are highly constrained in terms of when you come to capacity. When I say capacity here, strength, resources that are required, finance. Because all these arrests that you see, you need information. The primary product of our work is information. And information costs money. If a dealer is giving somebody 20,000 every day Perhaps your own operational fund even is not more than 5,000. Can you get information there?
Never.
It's a problem. So, but then let everybody come on board, complement our effort. We will continue to do our part, but the bottom line is government cannot do it alone.
Yeah, so I'm seeing most of the arrests are done within the West Coast region. West Coast region seems to be the gateway of bringing drugs here.
Yeah, especially when it comes to cannabis. If you look at it, and you know West Coast is very highly populated, and then as I said, if you look at the border area around that end. But now, you see, even this case, if you look at it, it manifests in something, because sometimes what happened before, people can have their farms in Casamas, and then they reside here. But because of the operations that are taking place around that area, it has become a very hostile area. So we have, you know, as I always say, counterintelligence. We are careful of what we give, because right now, Sediba is on air, it's drug squad that is on air, drug law enforcement. Dealers are listening, they are watching, they want to know what we know, how we know it, and what we are doing. So this is why sometimes when we don't talk about some issues, people think we don't want to talk about them. Yes, we have a duty to inform the public, but there should be limitations so that we do not compromise investigations or ongoing intelligence processes. Let everyone around the border area, not just the border area, because drugs can come from different angles. We know that when you talk about mostly cannabis, you expect it from this area. People talk about my children in Nyome, you know, I own almost all of that place there. But the cannabis there is not mostly for our market. And the boys will tell you, man, there be nehut, because it's grown in a salty water.
Well, you know, I wanted to ask you, I mean, you people are fighting cannabis, fighting drugs to eradicate, I mean, bringing drugs into the country. But we have a place where we farm cannabis in the Gambia. And you drug law enforcement agency, you know that.
That's what I'm saying. You see, when I talked about this problem initially, what did I say? I said that the issue of cultivation, the best practice strategic approach is alternative livelihood and alternative development. And this, what you do is, I do not always agree with this notion when people say that, okay, there is a cultivation here because some people have some belief that if I go there, this is what will happen. It's all about your operational strategy. If you do not go in, what do? Contain. And when you contain, you gather intelligence. And with the intelligence in network and infrastructure that you put in there, will inform you. So that's not this. And we keep on making arrests. When people talk about Jinak, people don't know there is a Jinak in the Gambia, there is a Jinak in Senegal, and go to our page, as I say. There are arrests that takes place within those areas. So, but then again, addressing and abating this issue is not only about arrest. There are standards, there are best practices. Yes, we will think globally, but act local in line with local realities. So it's not only about arrest, but this is why our strategy have some of these things. And even if you go to the Drug Control Act, DCA, Section 15I, says that in consultation with the Department of Agriculture, you know, then it was Department of Agriculture, which is today the Minister of Agriculture, to look at crops that are being cultivated and then look at alternative livelihood programs. But then, as I said, this is a continuous process. At the end of the day, cannabis today is not only cannabis sativa. You have cannabis ruralalis. I told you of the post office. It's becoming a new trend now for people to be bringing in skunk, which is cannabis ruralalis, and it's also very highly potent. You have seen Sierra Leone today is struggling with the problem of kush, which is a big problem, and people don't know. If you tell people, don't know, kush is kube jaralim, what we call here kube jara.
Kube jara, yes.
So, but then this can tell you to the extent that addict goni. The bottom line is, if I sit here and then say that we can do it alone, I am not being truthful and I'm not being realistic. It is a collective effort, it's a collaborative effort. We cannot do it alone, we cannot be everywhere and at every time. And let us not only limit the activities to arrest, interdiction, and legal processes. Let us ensure that our youth groups, civil society organizations, religious leaders in our sermons add their voice. Community groups within communities, let them also be engaging. When we engage, we discuss. And most importantly, those whose houses those drugs are being abused, because these things are not sold in the sky. They are sold in our homes. Let them also be very careful of their activities. And those who are there, they are doing them, let them report them. But our problem in this country is nobody wants to report. I will not say that there are no people giving reports.
Because everybody is related. If I report today, maybe I'm reporting my friend's son.
Then that's the thing. You see, it's a challenge. And if you do not report, and you say because it's your friend's son is in another activity that can affect your own son tomorrow. That's why James Baldwin say, those who give a blind eye to reality invite their own destruction.
Exactly, but the manner in which you people arrest too, Mr. Sediba, it's serious. I mean, we do not expect you to beat and harass people in the streets for drugs.
Well, I do not also expect our people to harass and beat people, and I do not think that that happens. If even it does happen, you see, we have to understand that managing people is one of the most complex things that you can do. That is why even if you understand the field of human resources, the development, to HRD, to people management, to today what we call talent management, the agency has a performance management system in place for us to improve. This is strategic HRM. So what we do is we set up a professional standard disciplinary committee. One, we develop and devise our staff code of conduct, and every single staff in this agency is given a copy. There is a staff service rule. Every single staff in the agency is given a copy. When we found situations and areas where our officers have been found wanting, they are dealt with. And we can proudly say, within the security, I don't think any institutions have done it, and I even doubt whether within workplaces we have that policy in place here, where we initiated drug tests for every single officers of our staff, and those who were found wanting were dismissed. When our officer was found to be involved in dealing in drug, what happened? He was dismissed. So the bottom line, my point that I'm saying is, let people who know that issues of violations of right or professional misconduct happen, bring the information. But if Sediba is always going to the management and then writing a report that they said our people are violating people and nobody is coming forward, at the end of the day, some people might think that Sediba have an agenda.
Exactly. Thank you, Mr. Sediba, for coming on the program. He's always ready to come on air and talk about these things. We appreciate the job that you do. I mean, you know, we know you are doing favors to, you know, many people, because today if our youth are involved in drugs, I mean, it's not good for the future of our country. And we appreciate, sometimes we need to, you know, direct the conversation this way so that we can bring out, you know, all that you have. You know, so thank you very much for coming on the platform, and we will follow the development. So when are we disposing of all these drugs? When are we doing that? So that I can go with Korka.
Well, as we invite the media, it's a public event, and when it happens, we always invite the media. I think, Balde, one area I know we are running out of time, but I want to bring, it is just to tell people that we are not being defensive. I always tell people, if you do not trust us, you know that there is a violation. There is a National Assembly Select Committee on Defense and Security. There is a Human Rights Committee at the National Assembly. The office of the Ombudsman's office is available. The agency has a board. These are all avenues. Just to tell people that we believe that constructive criticism helps us to improve. So if you do not believe that we can be the player and the referee, take it to those people, and they will also look in. Thank you for that.
I am told it's time already. Thank you very much for coming on the platform. Viewers, we'll take a short break. After the break, then we'll talk to Isatou Ceesay, environmentalist and author, and we have Miranda Paul, award-winning American author, and we'll be looking at Gambian Book Tour for children's book, One Plastic Bag. We'll be back.
Is a leading European brand which is now in the Gambia. Are you looking for glasses? Then you have come to the right place. As a first step, we will perform an eye exam to ensure we prescribe the correct lenses for you. After that, you can select a frame of your choice. We have a variety of brands in stock, and you will definitely find yours. You can have the full package of frame plus lenses starting from $990 up to more for the most fashionable options. Once you find a frame you like, your lenses will immediately be edged by our lab technician. Within 30 minutes, you will be able to leave with your prescription glasses and a huge smile on your face. How amazing is that? Visit us at the Tropic Shopping Center, near Gambia, from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. every day of the week, or call us on 503-4411 or 7767-123.
Espas Motors is the largest and most modern auto service in the Gambia. Espas Motors is the only authorized dealer in Chevy, Mercedes-Benz trucks, Mercedes-Benz buses, Kia, Ford, Futon Mini and Midi buses, Futon trucks, At Espas Motors, we have qualified professionals who use modern technology to diagnose and repair all brands of motor vehicles. Espas Motors services include auto sales, auto repairs, vehicle painting, availability of high-quality spare parts, towing services. We are reachable at any time. Call Espas Motors on 352222 353-4444 or locate us on the Bertel Harding Highway. Espas Motors. Step into the Espas Motors showroom for your luxurious name brand vehicle. Located along the Bertel Harding Highway, Espas Motors is the Gambia's authorized dealer for Chery, Kia, Ford, and now we bring you the new Peugeot model 3008 SUV. 18-inch alloy wheels, 216 inches high ground clearance, keyless entry system, start and stop button, rear parking assistance system with reverse camera, adaptive cruise control with speed limit, LED daytime running lights, front and side airbags, 8-inch HD touchscreen. Not to forget our exquisite Peugeot Landtrek double cabin pickup with 2.1-liter diesel engine, 6-speed manual transmission 4x4, hill descent control, LED daytime running lights. Espas Motors, the authorized dealer for Peugeot. Visit us today or call us on 352222 or 353-4444.
By Komena Woni Network, Burado Holorede, ko Lady Gambia do. QCell continue a dangol on internet service holorado ko Lady Gambia do. E 4G plus internet speed on men innama no yawi tenon kadi no holora watu kala dula e QCell. Nabo QCell SIM card Johnny Yahuka QCell customer care center ji ko Lady do. Fina fitoroda odo 4G plus internet yawudo ko Lady Gambia do. Fiye bugol hen ko labi. Ida wawi no de QCell customer care 111 QCell sunyubas menen uditi lawongol si wobe jokki.
QCell GSM company minna yirwa tariata Gambia Bankoka. QCell la 4G plus network ye banko bela mura andung ala internet o tariata sidula saba katambi nyongola. Saun sahin yesta 335 # kumandi. Yadati kemuna fang 4G sobe wala. QCell Gambia la network lanna yari on.
This program is sponsored by Opticalia. They are located at the Tropic Shopping Center, Senegambia. You can visit them Monday through Saturday. And now we'll talk about one plastic bag. That's the title of a book. And we have Isatou Ceesay, environmentalist and author. We have Miranda Paul, award-winning American author. Miranda and Isatou, welcome to the program. Isatou, I think this is your second time on this platform. Yes. Yeah, it's good to have you here. And Miranda, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Yes, feel free, feel at home.
Wonderful. Thank you.
All right, let's start with Isatou. Please take us through, you know, this book, One Plastic Bag. Why one plastic bag?
Yeah, greeting to our viewers and greet to my family, my kids and everybody, Njau Recycling Women. So this book is a long journey that I have started because it will take me back to my history. My family, they are not Gambian, they are Malian, you know, came to Gambia as refugees. And then we are staying in a village called Njau. And, you know, refugees, their names is more of, you know, minority people. And my education was a big challenge. When I finished my grade 6, my father died. And my mom stand very strong to support me as a young girl. And I learned a lot from my mom. And when I finished my secondary effort, I was very happy when I'm coming home, you know, expecting that when I came with my results, my mom will straight away pay for me to go to high school. And when I came, I explained. And when I was explaining my life and what I want to do, my mom was crying inside. And then she turned to me and tell me, Isatou, I know you want to go to school, but I can't afford anything for you. What I was expecting is when you finish your secondary 4, you come home and work and sponsor me, because I am a single mom. So I just feel okay with her at that time. And I said, okay, now I will sit home and think about what next by myself. And then one day I met with a Peace Corps volunteer. That's the first time I heard about them. So the volunteer met with me, and I was just helping them on their way to, she was traveling, and she have a little conflict with the driver because of language barriers, and I helped. And she turned to me and said, I am coming to stay in Yao for 2 years. And I said, with this weather, you think you can do it? She said, yes, because that's my agreement with my country, America. So when she came back, I joined her, and she told me that there is a small contract that I have from my office that I need a tutor who can help me to be able to communicate with the communities. And I trust you. I said, okay, we both trust God. I will do my best. So that is the time I start thinking, and then believe that the world should be my classroom to learn a lot, because I don't have opportunities from home. And I want to make sure that the young people that are coming, I know that several of them will feel the same thing that I feel. So when they come to that situation, how and what should they do? So I use the world as my classroom. I joined Peace Corps in 1997 as a Peace Corps counterpart. And I learned a lot. There is one workshop that they took us to Senegal. And at the end of the workshop, it was an environmental training. So at the end of the workshop, they sent us to the landfill and said, all the participants, you go to the landfill and you pick something that you can turn into, an object. So when I go, I am not sure of why, but I picked plastic at that time. And I came with the plastic at home. I called a meeting and I, explained my trip to the communities, and they were all laughing at me. They're watching me right now. Some of them, they're watching me, and they were all laughing at me because they said, my mom did not have a good child, because they were expecting all the good child, they went to Banjul to further their education, and I came to the village and I picking some plastic and said, there is something that I can do out of that. But that does not do anything to me, because I have a long expectation that I will have this type of word from people, because they don't know where I want to go.
Yeah. So at the time, when you picked this particular plastic, what came to your mind? Do you have any idea as to what you really wanted to do with it?
Yes. What I want to do is I want to use this plastic bag as my umbrella, to be able to use that plastic bag to solve problems that women are facing within my vicinity, because I know that my mom was facing so many difficulties. But with all that, she always makes us happy and works so hard to give us food to eat. So if I have this as an umbrella, then I'll be able to empower women and children. Because the young people, they are the future leaders and they need information. Okay. So this is what comes to my mind at that time. Okay. And when I came home, my sister taught me how to recycle, how to weave, how to do weaving, crocheting. Then I just, fixed it into plastic. And I crocheted the plastic.
So this thing, these bags, they are made of plastic.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's made out of plastic.
So this is plastic?
Yeah. And then before I started this, I do a lot of research with the butchers. And they say that there are a lot of animals that they kill, and they find plastic inside their stomach. And as women, I know that my mom used plastic to light fire when she's cooking. 75% of the Gambian people, they did it.
Yeah.
And it's very, very dangerous. Even if they are pregnant or they carry young kids. So these are all things that come to my mind. I said, I think this can be one part of the solution.
So one plastic bag, it's a book.
That's the book.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How did you come about? Why was it necessary for you to transform this into a book? Was it the ideas that you had that you transformed into the book, or what happened?
Yeah, what happened there was, when you take a journey, you need to have a long-term and short-term plan and expectations. I was using this one plastic bag to set up an umbrella to educate young people and women about environmental issues, because I know that at a long time, problem will come. But concerning about the book, I was on track, and she calls me and said, Isatou, my name is Miranda Paul. I am in the Gambia. I saw one of your posts, and I want to meet you. So that is the time I met her, and then we discussed. Then it ends because she also do some book writing, and she was having intention to do it that time. So that is how we connected.
Exactly.
So
yes,
at this point, we will
engage
engage Miranda. Why was it, how did you come to meet her and then realize that it was really important, because you're an award-winning author at the United States. You know, how did you come to meet her and, you know, you thought that it was really important to transform her ideas into a book?
Yeah. So when I was young, I always loved writing, but I decided to become a teacher. And one of my first teaching assignments was here in the Gambia, in Farato, at Mindao Junior Senior Secondary School. So I was teaching there. And I loved my experience as a teacher. I love the people of Gambia, I love the weather, I love the food. Of course, I love the food.
Yeah.
But every day I was walking from Brikama to Farato, and all along the side of the road, and you still see it sometimes, the plastic bags, they're there. The problem is there. And one day, one lady handed me one person just like this and said, there is a lady who is not like us. She doesn't just ignore it when she passes by. So I said, wow, one person is making a big change. She's cleaning up her whole village. I wish we could have that down here in the Combo region, you know, cleaning up these plastic bags. I would really love to meet her. So out of the blue, I just gave her a call and I said, I want to know more about this plastic bag. Can you take me to Njau? Can you take me, you know, to Central River region? And I think even that time it was not Central River region yet. It was something else. And I just do the research. I brought my video camera, I brought my notebooks, you know, everything a journalist will do to find out how did this begin and what is the impact. And now the impact is so big. 25 years Isatou has been doing this. The women of Njau have cleaned up their whole village, waste management. So they are moving on. They have collection bins in other villages. And so I would love to see more of that spreading across the Gambia and across the world. So we wrote the book about Isatou's journey in picking up the first plastic bag, deciding how to do it, how to convince other people to join her, make these purses, and in the same moment that they are cleaning the environment and helping the animals, they are also empowering the women. The women were running this entire operation, you know, and so the income that it generates, the confidence, the knowledge, this is one of those programs that hits every single point in what you want to do for development.
Exactly.
So now the book is around the world in about 8 languages.
Wow, 8 languages. That's an interest. Is it in Fula?
No, this one is in English.
In English?
Yeah.
We have some Wolof inside.
How about Fula?
No, but maybe we will have to do that. Now
All
we'll
right,
have to-
you should.
We'll have to do that.
You know, this book is very important and inspirational. And you're not just an author, but an environmentalist as well. So are you thinking of, you know, transforming this initiative to perhaps a company where you will hire young people, you know, all geared towards making sure that our environment is clean and, you know, combating climate change as well?
I have already did that.
You've done
Yes,
that.
I have already did that.
What's the name of the company?
The name of my organization is Women Initiative Gambia. And then the goal, you know, the goal and objective that I have is, I have been a volunteer in the Gambia for 4 years those days. And then people were telling me, you're going every single day, you go in and out, you didn't come with money. I said, money is not my interest. My interest is the education that I'm trying to grab, and I cannot get it through my family, so if I can have somewhere to volunteer, I can do it. And it gives me a lot of life, being a volunteer. It cleans your hearts, it gives you opportunity to love people, whoever they are, and then it gives you opportunity to render services to whoever and wherever they are. So I love it so much, and it's, you know, modify my life. I think I owe Gambian people a lot. So when I finish from there, I open my own organization, and I call it Women Initiative Gambia, and I do environmental protection, waste management.
Is it just for women?
Because no, it's for both.
Across the board?
Across the board.
Okay.
We have young people, both women and men, so they come there. If they finish school and they did not have a job yet, Women Initiative Gambia is a place to relax and think.
Okay. How many people, volunteers or staff, are we talking about here?
Yeah, we are talking about 20 volunteers, and we are talking about 10 staff for now.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
and we have our sub-office in Combo, and my main office is in Njau, because that's where, in Central River region, that's where I come from. And my people, they give me all the support that I need to be able to stand to do what I'm doing.
So aside from the bags and of course the necklace, what other thing do you use this plastic bag?
Yeah, we use, this is bicycle tire in a tube.
Okay.
That's what we use to make necklace and key holders.
This is beautiful.
So any bits of plastic in the country, we are trying to...
Is that plastic?
Yes, it's bicycle tire in a tube.
Yeah.
Wow.
This is
amazing. What we make as a necklace, as a key holder also. So we use also motor tires because it's too big, I cannot bring it. But we use motor tires to make series of chairs that you need. And we make motor tires as, you know, flower baskets and so many different things. Just to show people that at the end of each plastic related you receive, you can turn it into something whereby it is not treated to the landfill.
Exactly.
So we are trying our bit as Women Initiative Gambia. We have a lot of plans for a long time. We want to do, you know, community reach out that we have already started. We want to work with young people. We want to work with homes to be able to help them to know how to manage their waste at their home level. And after managing it, what can they do? Even the food waste, we turn it into manure.
You could even turn this organization to a school.
Yeah.
I mean,
that is
this
part
is
of the long-term
exactly.
plan.
This is something very important, and
That's
I would
part
love
of the long-term
to learn how to make these things. Honestly,
You're always welcome.
So, Miranda, at this point, what more are we really expecting from this particular organization? You know, in terms of helping the young people. We know that Gambia is mainly dominated by young people, but we also know that the unemployment rate of this country is really high. So what more are we really expecting?
So this book, One Plastic Bag, is very popular in the United States and around the world. People in the UK, people in Dubai, they're all reading it. And yet, for a time, it doesn't find its way all the way into Gambia, where the story is from.
Exactly.
So the goal here over the next 2 weeks is that we are, in some places, introducing this book for the first time to Gambian youth, so that they can see that if you don't have a job, even if you don't have an education, something like this is possible. You can make anything. You can turn picking up garbage, you know, picking up rubbish into a life's career and a legacy. So if there's anything you're passionate about, whether it's climate change, whether it's music, whether it's environment, you can turn it into a career. I mean, I turn into a career things like listening to Isatou and listening to people and turning it into books for children around the world. And anything is really possible, and that's what we want the children to take away.
Absolutely, yes. So, well, I think we are running out of time here, but I mean, looking at this book, going through it, I think we need to make a movie out of this book.
I think so.
It looks,
I absolutely think so.
It looks very
approach the
captivating.
National Center for Arts and
Yeah,
Culture.
I think we need to turn this to a movie.
Yeah, we will discuss that.
Definitely.
Yes, it's beautiful. So thank you very much for coming. And we'll follow your development, and don't hesitate to contact us anytime.
We will be launching tomorrow. We'll have the launch party tomorrow at Timbuktu.
Oh, tomorrow at Timbuktu.
Tomorrow it starts at 3 p.m. at Timbuktu.
All right, okay. All right, thank you very much, viewers. This is all we have for you, this edition of This Morning. Join us on Monday for another program. Until we come here again, have a wonderful weekend. The weekend starts for us today.